Alright, ladies and gentlemen, so pardon the loud music that you hear here with the while I'm doing this video, but what I'm going to be talking about is basically a state of consciousness which actually exists within the physical reality, and it has to do with more of how you can relate to it as a source of information or as a friend that you can relate to without and unfortunately it's like walking around with a ghost your entire life where you don't really know that entity actually exists. But this state of consciousness is, I call it a state of consciousness because most people are part of it, and they're not really aware of existing within an actual entity that can, in a sort, have a conversation with you to the degree of any question that you may have. In other words, it's like having a computer, which is the most modern and simplified way to have this, wherein you type in a question and it gives you back an answer. But what I'm trying to say is that this actually exists within nature, and that's what I'd like to share with the rest of you and me, and just about everything in between. So, first of all, what we need to consider is the approach of the individual. First of all, and unfortunately, to be able to see how this works, is you have to have what's basically called a clear definition of who you are. Whether that's by just believing very strongly in yourself and in who you are, or whether it's by being extremely honest with yourself, or whether it's by a state of consciousness or a realization that you get through meditation or whatever. It really doesn't matter. What you need to do in order to almost like walk a path that will reveal this hidden mystery to you is that you have to look basically how you have always looked at things. What I'm trying to say is this. Although you're seeing me right now in this video, this is what I'm seeing. Right? With a laptop and my own face in front of me, because I'm shooting this on my webcam of the laptop. So notice that this is how you actually experience reality, and you can even turn away this video and just listen to me. As a matter of fact, the video part is purely support, but really the audio is at work. What you have to understand is the concept. So as you are seeing everything around you, let's say, for example, you have any question whatsoever, and you will say, for example, how old will I be when I die, for example, and then you look anywhere random and you will look at anything. It could be a lamp, and that is the answer. Unfortunately, for most people, the lamp is obviously not the answer, because you're asking an age, you're asking for a number in terms of information. But what actually can, in a very objective way, happen to you is that the lamp serves actually as a point of focus or concentration. And if you accept the lamp as your answer, you will actually accept that your focus of concentration will become the tool for you to get the answer, not from the lamp, but from, you will see that in your head, you will get something like 35, 65, 92. In truth, it doesn't really even matter what the answer is, because next time you ask somewhere else that same question, you may get a different answer. So, but it's the idea that this is an applied or an application of concentration, and how you can actually subtract what is considered to be information from it. Now, if you want to take this even a step further, is when you start doing this for years on end. When you do this for a month, and after a month, and after a month, actually most people don't do it naturally, but the shamans do this. And typically it will be something like they will have a dream that seems very vivid, that has a very strong element of experience, wherein they feel like, wow, when they wake up, they say, wow, I had this tremendous dream, and they don't forget the dream. And sometimes, if the dream is very similar to reality, it's even hard to believe that the dream was not a reality in of itself. And this is part of what the experience leads to a state of consciousness, or a belief system, wherein you actually can experience talking to everything, absolutely everything, a tree. You can basically within your own consciousness, and what happens actually is part of the concentration that you have. It becomes so extensive that you are actually predicting the future, suggesting yourself a question, and then you end up seeing the actual answer. And that's ultimately the most, I guess, physicalized way that somebody can use virtualism in order to obtain objective answers. This also is almost like how telepathy works. But this actually has telepathy. Then goes more into how the breath is controlled and more things which are not, I guess, so easy to control, because then you need the verbal response from an identity and not from a source of information which is unconditional, such as yourself. Just like you tend to be unconditional to yourself when you ask yourself a question and how you answer yourself, because you know you won't punish yourself. So the idea is that, and I think the time frame that usually takes people is 3 to 4 years, and eventually you can simply predict what people will say. You will go to a meeting and you will know the themes. Of course, you don't know this in a sense by heart. You suggest yourself the question so strongly that you don't hear the answer, but you will hear. For example, I went to conversations. Not conversations, but satsangs, where some gurus were giving talks, and I knew the joke they were going to say 5 minutes, 15 minutes before they said it. And this actually happened with a lot of people, where I would go into conversations and I would know exactly what they would say, and the problem with that, and part of the mystical challenges of this type of skill that takes up, like I said, 3 to 4 years of non-stop effort to do, is that eventually you will see for yourself, but it will go from when you start asking a question, to a person and you get an answer. Eventually, it's almost like you will see that you're not actually talking to a bank of questions. You're actually talking to the physical universe of sorts, which is actually very much in touch with how you think and your thoughts and predictions and premonitions and all that is actually somewhat of the same thing. Not to you, of course, but to perhaps creation, or I mean, I don't know what it is, but this is something that you can notice, and yep. So have fun with it, and in the future, I think this is sufficient.